In a few decades, climate change and too much population have destroyed the entire planet. The United Ranger Corps is created to plan the Earth's evacuation, and people are permitted to live in a space colony known as Nova Prime. A group of aliens called Skrell sends a bunch of Ursas to attack because humans are now defenseless. These Ursas are bloodthirsty killers that were raised to kill humans. Even though they are blind, they can hunt by smelling the pheromones that humans release. The Rangers use their swords to fight the Ursas and stop the invasion. Prime Commander Cypher shows that he is a hero when he learns to control his emotions. When someone doesn't show any fear, the Ursas can't see them. This is called ghosting. As the years go by, Cypher's son, Katai, is a student at the Ranger Academy because he wants to be like his dad. Some tests, like jogging, are easy for him, but he works harder just to show that he's different. No matter how good he does on tests, he doesn't do well in the field, and Katai doesn't get the promotion to Ranger he wanted yet. Katai tells Cypher that his attempt to get promoted failed when he gets back from a mission later that same night. As usual, Cypher doesn't spend time comforting his son. Instead, he stays cold and says that Katai must not have been ready since the commander is wise. Cypher is always cold to his family, like he doesn't know how to turn off military mode. He even tells Katai to always call him, Sir, and gives him orders at the table. After dinner, Cypher gives his wife Faya a gift from his mission and tells her he'll take off the next day to train cadets in Aikido. But he plans to retire and work with her in the admin department after that mission is over. When Faya hears that, she tells him that he needs to spend more time with Katai, talk to him, and not be far away. Not a leader, but a father is what Katai needs. It makes her feel bad that Katai blames himself for the death of his sister Senshi and tries to connect with her by reading Moby Dick, her favorite book. Following this, Cypher tells Katai that he will go with him to Aikido. Later, when the crew is getting ready to leave, Katai sees a ranger with a missing leg standing next to his father to thank him for saving him during the Ursa's war. Even though Cypher doesn't think it's necessary, the ranger still asks his friends to help him salute the hero of humanity in the right way. As soon as the flight starts, Katai tries to call his dad and tells him he's reading Moby Dick. But Cypher doesn't like to talk, so he gives short and cold answers. After that, he tells Katai to sleep for the rest of the trip. Katai acts like he is following orders, but when Cypher falls asleep, he gets up and looks around the ship. He finds a scary area with warning signs, but he still goes in. The Rangers who are watching him scold him right away for it. But when they found out he was Cypher's son, they let him look at their cargo, which revealed an Ursa that would teach the cadets how to ghost. The Ranger challenges Katai to touch Ursa's shell to see how well he can control his feelings. But as Katai gets closer, he starts to remember the night his sister died. Their house was attacked by an Ursa, so Senshi put Katai in a glass box so the monster couldn't smell him. When Katai is about to touch the shell, Ursa can smell his fear and roars at him, which makes him step back. At the same time, Cypher wakes up and feels some strange vibrations. He places his ring on the ship wall to make sure there is danger ahead. He rapidly tells the Rangers to be cautious and tells Katai to put on his life jacket and fasten himself to his seat. Cypher then goes to the cockpit and tells the pilots that they are heading toward a storm of asteroids. The ship was hit by asteroids, which made it collapse and lose an engine before they could change course. The pilots are told by Cypher to go into the nearest wormhole so that they can get to a different base. The ship safely goes through the wormhole and comes out near Earth, which is illegal to go back to because it is so dangerous. The pilots say the ship has taken too much damage and they need to land right away, even though Cypher wants to go somewhere else. The ship starts to shake again as it gets closer to Earth's atmosphere. Katai starts to freak out, so Cypher tells him to take deep breaths to calm down. The ship starts to fall apart at that very moment. Cypher gets blown away by the wind, and Katai passes out. Katai wakes up a moment later and realizes that the ship has crashed. He left his seat to search for the others, but all Rangers are dead. He finally finds Cypher and makes sure he's still alive. Katai then sits next to him and waits for him to wake up. As soon as Cypher wakes up, Katai tells him that missing of the ship's tail means the Ursa is no longer there. Katai is led by Cypher to the cockpit to find the emergency beacon. However, when he tries to use it, he finds that it is broken. Katai then uses a stretcher to carry Cypher to the ship's main computer, where Cypher checks the inventory and confirms that there is another beacon in the ship's tail. Cypher gives Katai the mission of finding the ship's tail, which the scanner says is about 100 kilometers away because both of his legs are hurt. Cypher then gives Katai his blade and 6 vials of air filtration inhalers to help him breathe in Earth's harsh environment. Plus, he tells him that the life jacket and the backpack have cameras built in, so Cypher will be able to see everything Katai sees. Katai tells him about the time he saw his sister die at the hands of an Ursa, which makes him realize how dangerous it can get. Katai asks Cypher about the Ursa they were carrying. Cypher thinks it died in the crash, but it's better to think it's still out there. Katai leaves the ship after taking one of the inhalers. He is very scared because he can see all the dead bodies around him. He makes him kneel and tells him to focus on the present to gain control over his fears to calm him down. Following this, Katai starts his journey and meets many animals he has never seen before. Climbing a cliff, he is startled by a spider on his hand. When he gets to the top, he sees birds flying and cattle roaming on the fields. For someone who has lived in space their whole life, this view is absolutely breathtaking. At that moment, Cypher sends out a lot of probes to find the Ursa. He also tells Katai that it gets very cold at night. It's crucial for him to find one of the hot spots before it gets dark. Then Cypher checks his own wounds and finds that his leg bones are broken. This makes him think about getting some painkillers. The tag informs him that the shot might make him woozy and blur his eyes, which makes Cypher remember when his daughter called him while he was in the war. Senshi found an original copy of Moby Dick. This was a big deal because original books were getting hard to find. Since Cypher is starting to feel bad about how coldly he treated her excitement, he decides not to take the medicine. After a short time, Katai sees that his suit has turned black. Cypher tells him that it has motion sensors and that the color black means that a living thing is following him. A big baboon suddenly comes out of the trees, and Cypher tells Katai to stay still. While Katai prefers to throw rocks at it to scare it away, this leads to a group of baboons throwing rocks at him. He starts to run as fast as he can, and Cypher leads him to the nearest river to keep the baboons from following him. Even though the baboons aren't after him anymore, Katai keeps running with his sword out because he's too anxious and scared. To get him to calm down, Cypher has to yell at him to stop and kneel. Suddenly, Cypher sees that Katai's blood contains poisonous compounds and tells him to check his body. When Katai finds an insect on his hand, he takes it off right away, but the poison is still in his body. Cypher instructs him to inject the antidote, but Katai can't feel his hands anymore, so he has to drop his body on the needle to make it stick, which puts him out. After a few hours, Cypher notices that the temperature is dropping and wakes Katai up to go find a hotspot 10 kilometers away. Katai starts to run as fast as he can. Cypher is watching his son when he hears the computer tell him that he needs an arterial shunt to treat his leg. Once more, Cypher refuses to take the medicine and goes through with the procedure even though it hurts. Because he was on a mission, he had to watch Senshi's 19th birthday party through a screen while he worked. Cypher finally agreed to blow out the candles on Senshi's cake after she begged him a lot. Younger Katai blew out the candles for him. When Katai gets to the hotspot, he checks his gear and finds 2 broken inhalers. However, he lies to his dad and says he has all of them. What Cypher sees on the screen might mean that his son is lying, but he doesn't say anything else. Katai hides under a tree with a vial while it starts to rain. This gives him a chance to ask his dad how he was able to ghosting during the war. Cypher explains him that he was once stabbed in the shoulder by Ursa's pincer, and that they both fell into the river while they clashed. When Cypher chose to die, the pincer came out because the Ursa could no longer find him. Cypher had come to terms with the fact that, like anger, fear is merely a product of human emotion and has no basis in reality. Cypher sends Katai to the waterfall in the morning because the probes got some unusual signals. He sees a pile of dead monkeys on his way there, which tells him there is a bigger danger. If Katai gets to the falls, Cypher makes him check his things. This time, Katai tries to lie about the inhalers again. Cypher caught him in the act and did a few calculations to show that Katai won't be able to finish the mission without the inhalers. He tells Katai to stop the mission. Katai remembers having to watch Senshi die and doesn't want to do that again with his dad, so he tells Cypher he won't be a coward again. He actually believes Cypher is the coward because he wasn't at home to protect his family when the Ursa attacked. Cypher doesn't care about the insult and tells Katai to turn around. But Katai doesn't listen and jumps off the falls, using his suit to fly through the air. Suddenly, a huge condor flies up and starts to chase him. Katai tries to steer clear of the bird and hide behind the waterfalls. But the condor is faster and it attacks Katai as soon as he comes out. Katai loses consciousness, and Cypher can't talk to him anymore. Katai wakes up moments later in the condor's nest with its chicks. He tries to leave carefully, but all of a sudden, several lions appear and try to get inside to eat. When the condor tries to attack them, many of them avoid it and keep trying to get in. One lion gets thrown out by Katai, and another is grabbed by the condor. But when a third lion comes in, Katai has to use his sword. He doesn't want to fight, so he makes the lion fall by cutting a hole in the nest. After getting rid of all the lions, Katai leaves the nest, leaving the condor to mourn the loss of all its babies. After that, Katai tries to get in touch with his dad, but his communicator doesn't work. Later, Cypher gets pictures from his drones of the rangers' bodies hanging from a tree. This means that the Ursa is moving around. Cypher records a message for his wife in which he just tells her that he has lost their son. Katai, on the other hand, keeps going through the forest and hides in a cave at night to stay warm. Upon entering, he observes drawings made by the cavemen along with many poisonous snakes that he barely avoids. Although the odds aren't good, he decides to try anyway. He figures out how far he has to go and what he has with him. When Katai comes out of the cave the next morning, he sees the condor following him. Katai starts to run away because he thinks it wants to attack. He will soon need to use his last inhaler. Katai then makes a small raft to sail down the river. He dreams of Senshi appearing next to him when he takes a nap to rest. He tries to tell her that on the day she died, he almost left the confinement to help her. She doesn't believe him, but Senshi doesn't care because she thinks he was brave to save himself. She also believes Cypher is angry with himself for what happened. Katai then tries to read Moby Dick to show that he has been reading it, but Senshi tells him to wake up. When Katai opens his eyes, he sees that the raft has made it to land. It's getting cooler, so Katai quickly tries to find a hotspot, but he's not quick enough, and he passes out on the ground while the plants around him freezing. He thinks he's going to die, but when he wakes up in the morning, he finds something warm on top of him. It's the condor, which died to save him as a thank you for protecting its chicks. Katai thanks the animal and then continuing his journey. It's hard for him to breathe, but seeing a ship's part on the ground drives him to keep going. Soon after, Katai finally finds the ship's tail and grabs more inhalers and a new blade right away. Then he looks around and sees that the Ursa shell is open, which proves that the monster left. Meanwhile, Cypher is dreaming that little Katai gives him his own blade. He is suddenly woken up by Katai's voice, telling him that a communicator and beacon have been found in the ship's tail. He is in the black zone, so Cypher can't hear him when he tries to talk to him. Not knowing this, Katai tries to use the beacon anyhow, but it isn't working. Katai starts to tantrum out of desperation and frustration, but he quickly remembers his father's advice and kneels down to calm himself. Knowing that there is interference in the area, Katai decides that climbing the nearby volcano will clear the way for him to turn on the beacon. Katai finds the body of a ranger while on his way to the volcano. The Ursa is hiding there, ready to enrage him and set off his pheromones. Katai does his best to ignore it and keeps going until he gets to the base of the volcano. There, he tries again but fails to set off the beacon. Cypher sees the Ursa on the scanner and hopes his son acts fast to avoid being caught. Now Katai goes into a cave to look for a way to get to the top of the volcano. Katai goes inside and finds the Ursa waiting for him. The monster starts to attack right away, but it gets stuck under a bunch of rocks. As soon as the Ursa breaks free and starts to chase Katai, he tries to hide in a pool of water. Back on the ship, the computer starts to break down, and Cypher can't get to the medical care, which makes him start to lose consciousness. At the same time, Katai swims toward a light source that lets him come up to the surface of a pit. The Ursa jumps out of the water and grabs his foot as he starts to climb to the top of the volcano. In order to get out of the pit, Katai kicks the monster and sends it back into the water. Katai tries to turn on the beacon right away, but the Ursa comes back and jumps on him, hitting him on the rocks and forcing him drop the device. Although Katai is in a lot of pain, he remembers the time Senshi protected him and all the advice that Cypher gave him, which helped him finally focus and get over his fear, achieving ghosting. The monster gets lost, and Katai uses that to his advantage to attack it with his blade. It can't fight back, so Katai only needs a few well-placed hits to kill it. Cypher sees everything before he loses consciousness for sure. After that, Katai finally sets off the beacon. A few hours later, the Rangers show up to save them. Katai worries about his dad, but when he checks on him, his dad tells him everything is fine. Cypher has to force himself to stand up and honor his brave son, but Katai runs to hug his dad and tells him he wants to work with his mom. For the first time ever, Cypher gives back a hug and says he wants to retire too. Thank you for coming, and don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next video.